Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Power Hour. We're just going to wait a few minutes for a few more people to join the event. We'll do a little introduction to the team that we've got on the call this morning, and then we'll get into the part that you're all dying to see, which is our interactive Power Hour content. So the attendee list is shooting up. So let's just do a quick introduction then to the team on the call this morning from Columbus. So good morning, everybody. My name is Martin Clothier. I'm Technical Director at Columbus UK, which means, among other things, I'm responsible for the data analytics side of our business. And I've been in the industry for far too many years to mention, but I've been at Columbus for 10 years now, almost 10 years in February. So lots of experience with dealing with customers like yourselves and working on data analytics projects alongside ERP projects and many other things as well. So joining me also on the call this morning, I have two of my colleagues. First of all, another Martin. So I'm Martin with an I. And we've also got on the call this morning Martin with a Y, Martin Bostock. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Martin.
Fights to get himself off mute. So Martin is a technical fellow within Columbus UK, within my team. Martin's main role in data analytics is really as an architect, and he spends time talking to people like yourselves about their business problems and how we can use tools like PowerBI and the data platform behind it to solve those business problems. I think that's a fair description of your role in a nutshell, Martin. Would you agree?
Yep.
Great stuff. And last but not least, this morning we have Bemi, who's on the call with us. Good morning, Bemi.
Morning. Good morning.
And Bemi is going to be our main presenter this morning, and she is going to be taking us through the Power BI content. Bemi is one of our visualization consultants. She doesn't only work with Power BI, she works with many front-end tools to try and pull together reports and dashboards for our customers. But as you will see from the content this morning, she is a real expert around Power BI. So without further ado, I'll switch to my slides and we'll get into the introduction proper. Okay, so before we do that, just a quick one on the prerequisites and setup steps. So hopefully everybody on the call received their instructions beforehand. You might wish to follow along this morning, but obviously the session will be recorded and you'll see an email with a link to the recording following the session today. So you can then follow along at your own pace with the exercise that Bemi is going to show you this morning as we go through the Power Hour. But I'm not going to go through the whole prereqs, but these are the things that you'll need from a hardware and software perspective to take part in the exercise that we're going to give you with Power BI this morning. Okay, so just quickly moving on to the agenda then, we'll have an introduction from me. Then Bemi's going to take us into the Power BI desktop software and a worked example of creating some reports. Then Bemi will show you how to publish that and share it with your colleagues using the Power BI service in the cloud. And then finally, we'll wrap things up this morning with a few words from Martin Bostock on the Microsoft platform and the data journey that your business can go on using that platform. So without further ado, let's get into the introduction. There's me. We've elected not to switch on video cameras this morning. It is early. Some of us haven't had lockdown haircuts, although as you can see from the picture of me, that is an issue. So first of all, the first question that we always like to ask when talking to a customer about data analytics is why. What is the business pain? What is the problem that you want to talk to us about? Why do you want to talk to us about data analytics? I guess we all know the reasons behind data analytics in terms of tools that provide business telemetry, and if you get things right from a data perspective, you can turn your business into a data-driven business. But usually when we ask the why question in terms of why do you want to talk to us about data analytics, we get an answer something like, Well, we keep failing to deliver orders, and we want to understand why. And then the next question we'll ask is, well, why is that? And then we'll get through a multi-layered answer. And if you're failing to deliver product, well, there could be multiple reasons there. But if you haven't got a grasp on the data behind the deliveries and perhaps the risks within your supply chain, then actually we're going to struggle to answer the question why you keep failing. So we dig through those layers and eventually we get to an answer which relates to data. So the questions then turn to something like, well, where is your business today in terms of analytics and data? Because without a good solid platform in terms of data that's trusted and has good integrity and is easily available, you're going to struggle to make a success of using any of the analytics tools that you might find in the market today. So Martin will expand a little bit on this topic when he does his wrap up later on this morning after the presentation. But really we find customers sitting to somewhere along this kind of maturity ladder, if you like, and on the curve of maturity with data and analytics. Many people still find themselves, with a plethora of data, gigabytes, terabytes of data, but they're not really unlocking the value within that data asset that sits within their business. It's in different silos quite often, data sitting in different applications, and it's not brought together with the right processes to actually make it valuable and process it into management information, which is the next step along the maturity ladder. Now, many people are sort of sitting at this level, kind of the information layer, where they are able to pull together certain reports and they can visualize them with tools like Power BI. But our question is always, and our challenge to them is always, well, how do you get to the next step? How can you use that data to automate what's going on in your business and drive insights from it to help you make decisions and improvements in your business? Because ultimately, that's what we're looking to do here, solve business problems with data and analytics tools. So once you can do that, once you can get to the stage where you're able to make decisions driven from your data and you're more of a data-driven business, you can start to become more advanced and look at things like machine learning and predictive analytics, which is really just fancy maths applied across your data. And if you apply that fancy maths, you can sometimes get some very interesting insights and answers, which will tell you what might happen in the future. Or it could be something like, this isn't always about number crunching. It can sometimes be about things like machine vision, learning what a good product looks like as opposed to a bad product, for example. And if you can get to the point where you can capture that sort of visual data, perhaps in a production line, then you can use the tools here to automate processes that might be normally done by a human and reduce the workload on the shop floor and redeploy it somewhere else. So again, adding value to your business. And if you can get to the end of the maturity curve and actually take advantage of intelligent behavior and making informed decisions from your data and using automation, then you've gone through that data journey, and your business will be hopefully not just surviving but thriving. So just finally from me, if you've been around as long as some of us have on the call, a few grey hairs, then you'll have seen the journey of the traditional BI tools. It used to be all about cubes, and it used to be all about Excel spreadsheets and kind of predefined and preset metrics that people within a business couldn't necessarily modify and maintain themselves. And quite often, you couldn't run your key reports on a tablet device or on a mobile phone in the middle of the warehouse. But obviously now things have changed, and the cloud has really been the catalyst for the change, moving towards modern BI. And this is where we find ourselves today with tools like Power BI, which if you deploy them right with the right sets of processes and controls and training within your business, you can get to a point where your operational team can be pretty much self-service in terms of their reporting, which obviously frees up other resources within business who might be creating reports historically and traditionally. But now you're able to focus much more on the important things within your business in terms of adding value to it. and worrying about the source of data and the quality of the data in the back end. It's if we get your data lake, for example, configured correctly, with the right data flowing from the right sources, then we can the worry about actually creating reports off that single version of the truth, which is trusted by the entire business, is less of a concern. So that's the introduction from me today. I'm going to hand over now to Bemi. Now, during the session, do take advantage of the Q&A window. You can send us messages on the Q&A window. Bemi, if you'd like to share your content now, I'll put you live so you can be in control of your slides.
Can you see my screen?
Can indeed, and I think you're live, Bemi. So do take it away.
Thank you so much, Martin, for going through that introduction. As Martin has introduced, my name is Bemi. I'm one of the BI consultants here at Columbus. Over the next hour, I will take you through a journey of what is possible in Power BI. It is going to be high level, but to give you an idea of what you can easily achieve in Power BI. Before I go into the demo of Power BI, I'll give you a quick overview of what the tool is about. So what is Power BI? Power BI is a business analytics tool that has been developed by Microsoft, and the aim of this product is to provide end users with interactive visualizations and ability to build business intelligence reports with an interface that is very, very easy for end users to create their own reports and dashboard, like as Martin mentioned, self-service BI. That is where Power BI sits within the modern BI market. Another good thing about Power BI is it is part of the Office 365 package. It's cloud-based, so which means that you can be anywhere in the world. As long as you're connected to the internet, you can actually access your Power BI reports. Another good thing about Power BI is you can access a lot of data sources. Power BI enables you to be able to access over 100 data sources. So there's different data sources that you might have on your organization. I can tell you that it's going to be available in Power BI that you would be able to connect your Power BI to it. Power BI is also suitable for for power users. So people that want to be more advanced capabilities, Power BI is also suitable for them. This is just the Power BI platforms. So you have the Power BI desktop, you have the Power BI service, and you also have the Power BI mobile. And I'm going to show you how all of that integrates when I'm explaining each of these different sections. But before we get into that, the Power BI tool has been built with the end user's need in mind, starting with ease of access to the data that people want to report on. So Power BI really allows end users to be able to easily access their data. So after people access their data, another thing that end users would want to do is clean that data. 9 out of 10 times, data that end users want to work on is not clean. So Power BI has a very robust machine learning that has gone into the tool that allows end users to be able to easily clean their data without any advanced IT knowledge. Another thing that Power BI enables users with ability to mash up their data. Most times when end users are building reports, they have to pick different tables within the same data source or different data sources. Power BI enables them to be able to create relationship, mash up that data together, and from there, start exploring what is going on within their business. And another good way in Power BI to explore and get useful insights of what is going on within your business is the visualization. Power BI has loads of lovely visualizations. You also have a lot of visualization in the app source. And as I also mentioned at the beginning, that Power BI is also suitable for power users. You can actually build your own custom visuals internally if you choose to, and bring it into Power BI. So after end users have accessed their data, they've cleaned their data, they've mashed it up, they've explored the insights, they've put visualization on top of that to show a lovely story. Another good thing that Power BI makes easy is you can easily share your reports. With Excel, you might have to you keep having to attach files to your email, but with Power BI, you share your reports in the cloud, and end users will get up-to-date data information without you actually having to interact with that report. Again, only if you choose to change it. So let's think about a Power BI project. Every Power BI project will start in the Power BI desktop. So you always have to start all your Power BI projects in the Power BI desktop. So it's the Power BI desktop that you use for your extracting of your data, transforming your data, and transforming your data, you're optimizing your data for reporting. And as I just mentioned earlier, it is automated, unlike Excel, where you have to carry out the same transformations every single time you need to use it. But with Power BI, once we carry out all these transformations, Power BI remembers all this logic, and we're going to see how that works in this hour that we have. So after we are done extracting and transforming our data, the next thing we're going to do is model our data. And to model our data is more about like creating relationships in our data. As I mentioned during the mashup phase of an end user's needs, they might have brought in tables from different data sources or tables from the same data source. We need to create relationships between these tables to be able to get the best value out of our data. If you don't have the right relationship, the values that will be coming out in your visualizations are most likely going to be wrong. So another way you can actually extend the capability of your Power BI is by performing DAX calculation. And DAX is data analysis expression formula. It's a formula language used inside Power BI. It's very kind of similar to the advanced Excel formulas. So if you want to add extra capabilities to your Power BI reports, you can, add DAX, perform DAX calculation. In this hour, I will not really dive that much into DAX, but I would perform one DAX calculation that will just show you how I'm going to improve the capability of a standard report that I'm building. So after we're done with our extracting, transforming, we've modeled our data, then now it comes to visualizing our data, the storytelling part of our data. And when it comes to visualization, it's always best to carry out your visualization in a way that it's end users, other users that did not build that report can easily understand what is going on without you having to explain to them. Power BI has standard visuals that enable you to do this, and there are also custom visuals in the app source that you can import into Power BI desktop, to extend the standard visual capabilities. And as I also mentioned, if you want to build your own custom visuals in-house, you can build your own custom visuals and import that into Power BI. So now, once you're done in Power BI desktop, so in the Power BI desktop, what we're basically doing is extracting our data, transforming our data, modeling our data, and then building visualization off the back of all those data. And after then, we then publish this report to the Power BI service. So this is where we're starting to share our reports with other users within our organization. When we share these reports to Power BI service, users can consume this report on their mobile application, Apple Watches. You have Power BI on it as well. So if you want to consume your Power BI report on your Apple Watch, you have that option. You can implement dynamic data security rules. If you want to limit certain data that certain people within your organization can see, Power BI also gives you that capability to do so in the Power BI service. In the Power BI service as well, you can keep your data up to date. So unlike Excel files that you have to keep, messing about with Power BI, once you carry out all your transformation in Power BI service, just set the refresh times, how many times in a day you want to refresh your data. With in Power BI Pro, depending on how you connect your data, if you import the data, you can refresh your data 8 times a day. If you use stuff like direct query, live connections, you get near real-time refreshes. A quick summary, just to recap everything that I've mentioned so far. Every Power BI project should start with the Power BI desktop. So for Power BI desktop, you get your data from whatever data source it might be. And after you're done, with extracting, transforming, modeling, and then creating your visuals, then you push that data to PowerBI.com. So after you push that data to PowerBI.com, your users can pick this up either, by looking at it in their web browser, their mobile apps, or their tablets, their phones, their wristwatches. Or you can also even embed your Power BI reports in websites if that's what you want to do. So now you have an overview of what Power BI is. I want to then now take you to the tool to see how easy it is to use Power BI.
Thank you, Bemi.
Yeah.
No questions in the Q&A yet, but ladies and gents, do use the Q&A if you have any questions, and we'll try to answer as we go along. Obviously, if you're following along, we won't really be able to help you fix any issues at this end with what be going on your end while we're on the session, but we can certainly follow up afterwards if you've got some questions. But yeah, over to you again, Bemi.
Thank you. So I don't know if some of you have looked at Power BI before, or you've downloaded this prior to this workshop. So this is what a Power BI desktop looks like, and this is what we're going to be doing majority of the extracting, transforming, modeling, and creating our visualizations. But before I start building the actual reports, I want to just give you an insight into what we are trying to achieve. So we have been contracted by the HM Land and Registry, and they've given us the data for house prices that have been sold in England and Wales. So they want to know the top 3 counties, so the top 3 counties with the highest prices, and they want to be able to filter that report by the property type. But if we look at this property type as DS, we don't really know what that what those values mean, but they've given us a reference table property type that breaks down the meaning of each of those letters, and we're going to bring all of that into Power BI, to get together reference for those table. At the same time, they want to know the number of houses that has been sold. If they filter by a particular year, they want to be able to see the number of houses that has been sold in that particular year. And if we look at this, we have PP 2020, 2019, and 2018. These data are in exactly the same structure. The only thing that differs is the fact that the data in them are for different years. So we're going to pull all of this into Power BI and merge it all up together, and then give them exactly what they are required from us. Another thing that they've provided for us is a separate dates table. And with the dates table, they've broken it down into their month, year, quarter, and it's always good and advisable that when you bring in and when you're carrying out any Power BI project, to have a separate dates table. It just enables your reporting, make it easier. And also when you're using some time intelligence DAX formulas, if you don't have a dates table, those time intelligence formulas will not work because you have gaps in your data. Also, okay. So this is the reports that I've built these reports prior to this training. It's just to show you what we're going to what we're going to achieve in the next couple of minutes. So as I mentioned, they want to know the number of houses that were sold. So this gives them that information. And then they also wanted to know the number of houses that were sold across different months. So across different months in the year, they can actually start seeing what is going on and where the fluctuations are. And also they wanted to be able to filter by property type. So when they click on a particular property type, this report is going to change dynamically. And this map just gives them like a heat map of their most concentrated areas with the highest prices. And this table right down here shows them the top 3, which is what they're really particular about. They want to know their top 3 counties. So by looking at detached, they can see their top 3 counties with the highest prices as Greater London, Hampshire, and Surrey. So another thing that this report gives them is when they click on a particular year, this title changes dynamically. So whatever year they're on, if they leave this report and come back to it, they can easily tell, okay, when I was last looking at this report, I was looking at 2020 prices paid. And we're going to try and I'm going to show you how you can achieve this in the next couple of minutes. Okay. So let's just familiarize ourselves with the Power BI tool that we're going to be using. So in Power BI desktop, so you can see Power BI desktop we're in so far. What I showed here, this is the Power BI service, is online in the cloud, and I can access this via mobile if I want. Okay, so back to the Power BI desktop. In here, you have these three main regions. So you have the reports view, you have the data view, and then you have the modeling view. So your data view, when we import our data, bring our data into the model, you'll see all your data appear here in the data view. And in the modeling view, this is where we're going to create relationships between our tables that we're bringing into Power BI. So if I just go back to the report view as well, in here you have the filtering. You can filter on this page. So here you have page 1. So which means that if I put a filter here, the filter would only affect what is on page 1. You have filter on all pages, which means I have more pages right there. The filtering I put in that particular region will work across every single page in my report. And these are visualizations. You can click on your visualizations, and right there, you click on any visualization, and then you can start using it to build your visuals. And at the same time, you have the field section. This is where all your columns are going to show them. The columns and tables that you bring into Power BI would appear. And you have the filter on this visual now. Because I've got a visual on this page, now I can filter on that particular visual. So if I put a filter in that particular section, it would only affect that particular filter, nothing else on the page, just that filter would only apply to that particular visual. So now let's go and get data. I know that the data I want to get is Excel, but just to show you the other options that you have in Power BI, I'm going to go get it and I'm going to get more. I'm just going to wait for that window to open up. Okay, so in here, another good thing that they've done is they've categorized each of these data sources. So if I go into file, you can see my Excel, my text, CSV, those different options in there. I've got my database option. I've got my SQL database, SQL Server analysis services, Access database. You have different options in there of the databases that you could connect to. You have your platform, options as well. You have your Azure option as well. If you want to Azure SQL database, SQL data warehouse. So if you have any of these data sources within your organization, it's a data sources that you can actually connect Power BI to. You have your online services, Dynamics 365 Online, Dynamics NAV, 365 Business Central on-premise. So you have Google Analytics in there as well. If you have Google Analytics, so you have different options there of different sources that you can connect to. So I think you just, plug Power BI into it and just play with it and see what you could actually achieve. You also have you can connect to the web if you want to, or data feeds. So there's just quite a lot of data sources in here that you can play around with to connect to your data. So I'll just go back to file because I'm trying to connect an Excel file. So I'll click on Excel and then I click connect. Okay, and then I'm just going to navigate to the data I'm trying to pick. That's the data I want to connect to, and I'm going to click on open. So what it's going to do right now at this stage is it's going to bring across every single table that I have in that particular data source. If you're connecting to a SQL database, it's going to bring in every single tables in that particular database. But in my case, I want all these tables. In your case, you might not want every single table in your own database. So just select the tables that you need to build your reports. And when it comes to any Power BI project, what's going to drive every decision you make is your requirements. What is your end result? We know what our end result is so far. Like we have a picture of what our end result is now, and that is what is going to drive every single decision that we are going to make today. So we know that the HM London revenue, they want the data. They want to be able to look at their data across the last the 3 years. Even though that 2020 data is not complete, but they still want to see what is going on so far in 2020. At the same time, if you come right there to the bottom right of this particular navigator, you can see the load and transform data are blanked out, and that is because I've not selected any table yet. If I click cancel will just cancel every operation that I've done so far. So now I'm going to go ahead and start clicking on these tables that I want to bring into my Power BI report.
And Bemi, I guess this is an important one because if you go ahead and click too many things, you're going to you're going to be pulling in data that you don't need, and
Yeah.
presumably your report will take longer to render, I guess.
Yes, because you're trying to limit the amount of data you're bringing in, and then if you want to optimize your report, you don't want to bring so many in. Yes, definitely. Yes.
Great stuff.
That's okay.
Top tip.
All right then. So also at this stage, so now you can see, and the other good thing is this is a preview of your data, so you can see a preview of what is going on, like, so that shows me what is inside that particular table. And now I have the option to either load or transform the data. So if you load this data, you're basically accepting that every data in here is what you want to bring into your model, and that's not what I want to do. I want to carry out some transformation. I want to limit the data that I'm trying to bring into Power BI so I can optimize the Power BI engine. So I would go ahead and click on transform data. I'll click on transform data now. And when I click on transform data, one very cool thing that I feel to me that Power BI does is Power BI actually goes through every single data set that you're bringing in, and it actually prejudges what kind of transformation it thinks should go on your data. Most times it's going to get it right. And if you're not satisfied with the transformations that Power BI has automatically carried out for you, you're open to deleting it. And I'm going to show you that in this quick demo. So I've got two major tables in here that Power BI got one right for me, but the second one I'm not fully, happy with what it's done. So if I go to the dates and it's just, to the dates table, and one thing you should take note of, right now we're in the Power Query editor. We still have this view that I showed you earlier. So Power BI has two engines. So you have this back end side, which is where your query editor, where you carry out your transformations. And this is where this other front end side is where you carry out your modeling and you build your DAX functionalities. So sometimes we get confused on where you should be. When you want to carry out transformations, you have to be in this engine. If you carry out any modeling in here, Power BI does not record that steps, but in here, every step you carry out in the query editor is recorded by the applied steps. Okay, so now in here, I'm just going to take you through a journey of what Power BI has done for us. So Power BI first went to the source. Okay, we told it what source we wanted, the Excel file, and you can see all the tables in our Excel file. Then it navigated to the dates table. Okay, this is the dates table. This is what we want. Then Power BI realized that this date, month, year are in our in the row, and they're meant to be our headers. Without us having to do anything at all, Power BI automatically promoted those headers for us. Another thing about it at this stage, what Power BI could not decide to do, what is the data type? In here, ABC123 is what you call your data type. And yeah, it's saying any because at this stage it wasn't sure what the data type should be. But then coming to the next step, Power BI changed the data type for us without having to do anything. I've not had to carry out any transformations on this table. Power BI has just automatically detected what sort of transformations it should carry out for me. But then if I come to the property type table, it did not do the same. It didn't promote this edit for me. So maybe there's something wrong with this particular data, that particular table that I couldn't read it accordingly, but it did not promote that edit for me. But this is something I can easily rectify and amend that myself. So it just shows you two scenarios when, Power BI can just automatically go to your data and then, you just have to make a couple of changes and you're going to get it to the exact same format. Well, before I go into changing those two tables, let's look at our PP 2018, 2019, and 2020. As I mentioned, when I was going through the data sources, the data in these 3 years, they're in exactly the same format. The only thing that is different is the data that is coming through. So if I want to carry, I definitely need to transform these 3 tables, but I don't want to transform them 3 different times. And the best way of achieving this is you have this option to append queries. And if you think about append queries as your Excel workbook, in an Excel workbook, you have your data in there. You're just bringing in a new row beneath your data, just adding a new row of data to the data that is already there. So that's how append query works. Append query is adding new rows to your data. And in my case, I'm trying to append three tables together. So I'm going to select three or more tables, and then I want to append PP 2019 and PP 2020. If you want to append these two together at the same time, if you click on if you click on the first one and you click on shift, then you're able to select the two of them at the same time. Then you add this to here, so I've got that in there, and then I click OK. And now you can see I have a new step in there that says append query. Okay, so at this stage, I still have my PP 2019 and PP 2020. But what I don't want to happen is when I finish all my transformation and I'm trying to load this table, I don't want Power BI to load PP 2019 and PP 2020 as separate tables. Let me rename this first. So let's rename this now because we have all our data in there. And I'm just going to name it prices paid. Okay, so in here, where I click on here, you have this option to enable load, and you have this include and refresh. I'm going to disable the enable load. I don't want to load that table, but I still want it to include. I still want it to be included in my refresh, because by disabling this table will not come across separately, but when the data gets refreshed, it's going to push that data for me into my prices paid table. And I'll do exactly the same thing for my PP 2019 as well. I don't want it to load those tables separately because the refresh will push the data for me into my prices paid table. Okay, another thing that I want to change in this prices paid table I have now is this property type. So I don't really understand what DDSS means. So I need to bring in the reference for this particular table. And you have this property type in here that shows you what each of these alphabets mean. But before I go ahead and carry out, so what I'm going to do is merge this table to that table. As I explained, appending, you're bringing in a new row. When I'm merging the queries, I'm bringing in a new column. So I'm going to be adding a new column that gives an appropriate description for each of these alphabets. And because I don't want this manipulations, it's changed the type, and I just don't want that. You can see it turns red. If I click on that exporting, that has removed that particular transformation. I don't want that transformation. So what I'm going to do is, I'm still all I'm doing, I'm seeing my Home tab. To click on that, I can use my first rows as header, and now it's promoted the headers for me. And without me having to change the type, automatically Power BI detected what the next transformation should be. You automatically change the type, and the type that is giving me is appropriate for the particular fields I have in here. So now that I'm happy with everything here, I'm going to go back to my prices paid table, and then I'm going to click on merge queries. So if I click on merge queries, yeah, I've got this window that opens up. In here, I'm going to select the reference table that I'm trying to merge my data with. So I've got property type in my prices paid table, and I've got property type code. So that is the relation. This table has unique values, whereas this would have many values of the same thing that appears in here. Then I'm just going to click OK, and then you can see already that step is showing up in here that I've merged my queries. So just like I did for my PP 2019 and my PP 2020, now I've picked out, see, I've got my property type there already. I don't need this table anymore. I don't want to delete this table. I just don't want it to load up into my model when I'm done with all my other transformations. As I mentioned, merge queries brings in a new column for you. And in here, I'm just going to select exactly what I need. And what I need from here is just the property type. And that's what gives me the description of everything, of what does DDS and what that means. And just take a note of this side. Every step I've been carrying out so far, I appended my query. You can actually go back to your steps. Like, don't be afraid to click back. It's not going to break. The only time you should be worried is when you click on delete that, then I'm deleting that particular step. But by going back, I'm not going to I'm not going to break my report. So this is a very good reference that shows you all the steps that you've been carrying out within your reports. So here you can see now I've got my descriptions of what those alphabets mean. Right then. So now at this stage, I don't need this table. I don't need this column anymore. So I want to remove some certain columns in here. I can choose remove columns, but I personally prefer choose columns because it makes it easier for you to step back in your reports, add a new column or remove a new column, or if you mistakenly removed a new column, choose columns gives you more flexibility rather than using remove columns. So I would advise that use choose columns. They do exactly the same thing. I'll use choose columns over removing columns. So then I'm going to remove property type and category type. Just click OK. So that's going to remove those two fields that we don't want in our data. And then I also mentioned that in the top bit in here that you can see that what they're called is called data types. So in here I've got the date time. I don't want this to be date time. You know, I want to change that. I want to change that to a date. I want that to just show me that I don't need the date time. And the good thing about Power BI is you can achieve the same thing so many different ways. I could have changed that from here if I choose to, but that was just easier to achieve at that corner. So if I also go back to my dates table, I also have this as a date time, but I don't want it as a date time. I'll just go up here just to show you that you can achieve exactly the same thing by doing it different ways. But what is showing me right there is, do I want to replace a current step? This is one of the tables where Power BI has made prejudgments on what sort of transformation I think it wants to do for me. But then it changes to a date time for me, but I've changed my mind. I don't want this to be a date time. I don't want to add a new step. I just wanted to replace that current step. So those are decisions that you have to make. Is this going to be a new step, or are you trying to replace the current step? So just be careful on which you do, because the thing about this applied step is once you carry out a particular, if I delete this, it is gone. So you have to be careful when you're dealing with your steps. Okay, but the good thing is that if you do something you don't like it, you can easily delete it and bring it back in. So now I've changed the dates to date type. Another thing you will notice on top of my report is the data profiling. That's another good thing Power BI does for you. Profiles your data. It goes and check your data and see, okay, 100% of my data is valid. I don't have any errors in my data. None of my data is empty. But if it comes to prices paid, once that profiling comes back up, I'm just going to, while that's waiting for that to come up, let me rename this. Now I've removed that other property type in there, and I'm just going to name this property type only. Okay. Okay, so now we're done with all our transformations in here. And if you're like, one question that will be at the back of my mind is, let's just imagine we come to 2021 and I want to add, another data to this. I want to add 2021 data. Do I need to go through all of these steps again? The answer is no. And that's if I come to this step in here, I can actually add my 2021 data to that. And the good thing is Power BI will remember every other steps that's happened before and just bring in your 2021 data in there. Or, and once the data gets refreshed, it's going to get pushed into this bit. You don't have to worry about it. It becomes automated. You don't have to do the same task over and over again. So another thing that we should look at is, okay, just before I go and show you that, this is finished loading up. So for this particular table, we can see 43% of my data is valid. I've got 56% empty. This is when you can start thinking, are those rows actually meant to be empty? In my data, they're meant to be empty, but in your data, is that meant to be empty? You can start, go back to your data source and see whether what is actually coming up about your validity of your data is correct. So if I go to view in here, every step that we've been carrying out that you can see in the applied step would also be in the advanced editor. So I click on the advanced editor, and this language is M. So you can actually, instead of us, clicking and dragging everything we've been doing, you can actually write all this function that we've been carrying out in the M language. And M language is what is used in the back end in the Power Query editor of Power BI. And this is just showing you every single step that we've carried out so far in Power BI. I'm just going to close that now. And I'm just also going to show you the query dependencies. Because of these 3 tables, I've disabled their enable load. Okay, so you can see that PP 2019, PP 2020, property type, their load is disabled, but the 3 of them are connected to this prices paid table. So once this once this gets refreshed and it pushes down to this table will automatically get refreshed, even though we have decided not to load these 3 tables. So this table will still get refreshed because of it still has the connection to the data source and is dependent on those other tables. And it's not loaded so far because we've not yet loaded our data into the model. So I'm just going to close that. And that's all the transformations I'm going to show. There's a lot more transformations that you can carry out in here in your data, but that's all we're going to cover this morning. And at the time, now that I'm done, I'm just going to close and apply. So you're closing and apply because you're happy with all the transformations, and PowerBI is going to apply all these changes and store it in its memory. Okay, while I'm waiting for that to finish, I just want to quickly show you the other options you get when you connect to SQL Server or analysis services. So what we are doing so far, we're using Excel data, is importing the data. But when you connect to sources like SQL Server analysis services, you have the option to either import or use direct query. And the difference between this is direct query, you're still connecting somewhat live to your database. And the limitations with this is a lot of the Power BI there's some of the Power BI functionalities you would not be able to use. There's some of the DAX functionalities that would not work because you're using direct query. But the major benefit of using direct query is you get near real-time information. Like you can refresh your data like every 10-15 minutes if you choose to. Like basically, no matter how frequent you want to refresh your data, the direct query enables you to be able to achieve that. But when you import your data in Power BI Pro, you can only refresh your data 8 times a day. So those are things that you should take into account when you're making decisions on when you're building your reports. What's the frequency? How frequently do our end users want to see this report refreshed? And those are things that would drive the decisions that you make at that stage. Another option that you have is your analysis services, and with the analysis services you have the option to either import or connect live. So if you want to connect live, but when you connect live, don't be alarmed when you see that some of these options are not showing anymore, because your analysis services like your cube, you've built everything in there, and Power BI will just be used for your visualization. So if you're connecting live, these two options would not show on your report. So those are things that might show you, like other sources that you might use in within Power BI. And don't ask it for your credentials, just put in your login credentials in there, and then you can connect to your data source. All right, so now now we have our data in there. So if I come to this data view, our data is loaded. So yeah, I've got my data in here now. And if I go to the modeling view, I can see right now I don't have any relationship between these 2 tables. I'm just going to quickly save my reports. So let's save that. Waiting for that. Okay, so now we'll save the reports. Okay, so now I'm going to start building my reports and modeling at the same time. So I say you can easily pick your visuals from here. I'm going to pick on that visual. All right, so start meeting the HM Land and Revenue Registry requirements. So they wanted the month, so we need our months, right? Okay, and then we need our price. But if you see now, the data that I have here is not correct. See the prices, I have the same price showing for every single month. And that's because I've picked up my month from my dates table and my prices from prices paid table. There is no relationship between these two tables. That is why the values that is giving me right here is incorrect. So sometimes if you're looking at your data and the data is looking looking incorrect, make sure that you've gotten your relationships right. Because if your relationships is incorrect, the data you would be getting on your visualizations would also not be correct. So if I go back to this my modeling view, and then all you just have to do is drag. I know that the relationship I want is based date and date of transfer. And without me having to even think about it, Power BI already detected what the cardinality between these my reports are. So it's doing a one-to-many relationship. So I have one date in my dates table, but that my one date, can appear multiple times in my prices paid in my prices paid table. So if I come back to my visualization, you can see that's changed, and the value that it was showing us before was the total value. Okay, now what we now start thinking about is you have to make sure your report is readable. How would like these values? I know that this is meant to be billions, but this is not really readable. So you now start modeling your data much further. But just remember, any changes that you make in here is not like there's not any applied step to see what change you have made. But Power BI will still remember it, but there's no applied step that keeps a record that you can see a detailed record of what you have done. So now I'm just going to go in. So I just realized once I just clicked on that, automatically Power BI came with column tools. Microsoft they keep upgrading the Power BI software just to make it easier for people to be able to use. And what I want to look for, what I just need is I want to change it to the the British pounds. So now I can see that's changed that for me. But this report is still not correct. Power BI would see months as alphabets. It would not automatically detect it's meant to be January to December. But this is something I can easily rectify. So if I come into my dates column and I click on month, just again, I've got my column tools. I don't have to keep looking for things. It's very easy. The interface has been built to be very, very easy to use. And then now I'm going to say, okay, I need to sort that particular column by month number. So now you can see just like that, I've got my January, February, March to December, and I just have to click. I've not had to do that so much. I just had to just click on certain things, and this is already starting to take shape. So another thing that they wanted from us is to be able to see this value across their 3 different months worth of data. So I'm going to change this to an area chart because that's the visual I'm going for. But all of this is based on your personal preference, what works best, what tells the story. So when you're picking your visualization, be thinking about you're trying to tell a story without me having to sit down with the person that's going to read this report. They have to be able to understand the story I'm telling with this report. So I'm going to click on this area chart now, and that's got everything for January, February, March till December. But this is for all the years that I've got in my data. But I wanted to break this down for me according to different years because that's what they've required. That's what they've asked us. So from this report, they can start seeing, comparing house prices in different years across different months. Are we peaking at the same months, going down? Because like if you look at December 2018 compared to December 2019, it went down, but that does not seem to be the case in 2019. It kind of remained steady. And if you also look at August right here, so here they can actually start understanding what is going on within their data. Okay. So one other thing that they also asked us for is to be able to slice and dice their report with the property type. You can actually achieve this same thing I'm trying to achieve in so many different ways, but I've chosen to use a donuts chart. I'm just trying to use as many different visuals in this report as possible. You can use a slicer if you choose to, so you can achieve the same thing in different ways. It all depends on your requirements. So now I'll select property type and then the price. But then this all looks so muddled up for me, just so much going on in this particular visual. And that's another good thing is that for every single visual in there, you actually have a formatting option. You can actually modify that report to your heart's content until you're fine with what that particular visual is showing you. So here, I don't want this legend. I'm just going to take that off. I don't want that. So here is the detail label. That's what is giving me all these other values showing here. And all I want here is just the category. That's all I want it to show me. Okay, and that's all I want. So now, if I click on this, that without me, I didn't have to set up any link between these two visuals, but by just adding that to the report canvas, automatically clicking on areas in this particular visual is automatically filtering my other visual. I've not had to build a link between it. You can turn off the link if you choose to, but for the report that we want everything to be interlinked. When I clicked on one thing, I want the other report to dynamically change. Okay. So another thing that they wanted from us is the number of houses sold. Okay, this is something that you can use DAX to achieve, but I'm just trying to show you as much as you can achieve with Power BI without actually having to venture into the DAX field. So I'm just going to show you that without having to use the DAX function. But this is something that I would normally build a DAX function for this, just to keep my report separate, so I know what I'm calculating and whatnot. So I'm just going to bring in a card, and the good thing about every visual is if you over it, it's going to kind of give you an indication on what that visual. And another brilliant thing about all of these visuals is also the reason why this happened is because I did not click out of a visual. So before you pick a new visual, make sure you click out of the visual that you were. I'm just going to change that back to this. Okay, so that's fine. So now I'm going to pick the card. Just going to be a card. I'm just going to drag it. I want it to be on this side of my report. Okay, so here I'm going to bring in, I'm going to put in the date of transfer. And what I'm going to do is count. I'm not going to count distinct. I'm just going to count every single dates that come. That will give me like all how many houses has been sold. Because so every time they sell a house, they will put in the date of transfer. So this is going to count the number of houses that has been sold for me. I can achieve this with a DAX function, but without having to do a DAX, they've tried to make life as easy as possible for you, to be able to get started and start building your reports. So in here, so I've got this count of date of transfer. This does not look, that attractive. I can also, go into that particular visual and make changes to it. What you have here is a category label. I don't want the category label. I want to give this a particular title myself. So I'm going to type that in there. So I'm just going to say number of houses sold. Okay, and then I can change the font's color if I choose to. I'm just going to change that into white, and I'll make the background black. So and at the same time, for that particular visual, I can add a border to it. Just by doing those tiny little changes, you can see that our report is starting to take shape. So one of their top requirements again is the fact that they want to be able to their top 3 counties. So I'm going to just use a matrix here just to show you that. As I said, all of this thing is based on personal preference or what your users want to see. Like, there's no one visual fits all. It all depends on what tells the story. So what I'm trying to do now is just tell a story of what's going on in the house prices in England and Wales. So now I'm going to pick my county and put my county in column, and this, right up there. And then they want to see this by property type, and they want to be able to see whether it was, old or new. They want to start building hierarchies. We can build hierarchies in here. So, and you can easily build an hierarchy by just dragging and dropping, and then that's built an hierarchy for us. So instead of me, just even picking this old or new. I'm just going to click on that right now, and then now I can just use my hierarchy in my reports. So you can easily build hierarchies of, you know, step of different levels that you would like to see, and it's just a drag and drop, and that is built for us very easily. And for the values, I'm going to put in the price. So yeah, you can see the price, but I've got a lot of counties in here. They are not interested in all these counties. They are only interested in the top 3 counties. And you might think that it's probably something you have to do, write some lovely calculations for. No, by just putting in a filter here in Power BI, you can easily achieve top 3. You have this option under the, so I'm going to be carrying out this filter on this particular visual. They don't want to do for all the pages. They want just a visual that shows them their top 3 counties. So I'll pick the top N and then make that top 3. Then I'll bring in my price. So I'm doing my top 3 counties based on the prices. So Power BI is automatically summing up all these values for me, and it's gone through all my data, and it's come across and say, oh, these are my top 3 counties. And just like every other of my visuals, I can make changes to this. You know, I can change the style, and I say, okay, I want that style. You have different options in here, so whatever suits you, please definitely go for it. I'm also just going to turn the border on that one for now, and my report is just, you know, little by little it's starting to take shape. But then when you click on this report compared to the other ones, you have these options up there, and I'm going to explain to you what these what is all of these 4 functions do. So if I start with this one, okay, remember our hierarchy has 2 levels. We have property type, we have old or new. So if I go down 1 level, that will just show me whether it's old or new. So N is for new, Y is for established. So these are part of the things we should have done in our transformation. Change the N to new build, Y to old building. But that was not part of our requirements for this particular report. But those are part of the things that you'll have taken care of in your transformation section. So yeah, so now we just built down, so it's just gone down for us. If I filter on that, you can act that this particular table has also filtered dynamically. So what is showing me right now for detached, this is new and established build. Okay, so just going to draw back up, and you also have this option. This will show you all levels. So this is showing you all the levels that I have. So I've got this level, and for each N and Y is showing me what is going on in each of my property type. So when you click on the last option, it expands it to the lowest level that you have in your hierarchy. I'm just going to take it back up. You also have this option to just drill down. And when you click on that drill down option, if I click on this, it's going to drill down every single thing in my report. As I said, you can turn this off if that's not what you want to achieve with that. It can be turned off, but that's what we want. So I've clicked on detached. So everything we're looking at on here, this is our detached house prices, January to December for 2018 to 2020. So yeah, so that's that bit of that report. I'm just going to turn that off. So another thing that we could achieve now is another thing that they wanted was a map. They want a map that shows them you know, all their postcodes and prices. So then we have so many different maps in Power BI, but I'm just going to use that one. Yeah, just going to bring that down there. So in here, I'm just going to select postcode. I've got postcode, and my postcode is just, I didn't have to drag it there. It just snapped right to the right place I wanted it to be in location. And then I pick on price, and I've got my price in my size, and that's what determines, you know, the size of the bubbles that you're seeing on this map. But the thing about it is that because we're using postcode, we have so many data points. So the best way to get the most out of this is just to turn on this heat map functionality. So you have this heat map, and now it will be able to just, you know, it really show you the concentrated areas, and that goes in line with our top 3 years. So we can see London is is much darker. We can see Greater Manchester right there. So this just, you know, it makes it a bit more readable. Another thing as well is when you click on each of this map will also change dynamically and just drill down to that particular region, and then you can, you know, in London, this bit appears to be the most concentrated compared to all this outskirts part. So we're just telling the story. It's digging into our data and just trying to see what is going on. So another cool thing that you can do is with this particular visualization, I'm fine with everything that I've done, and I want to apply the same format from this particular visual to all the other visuals. All I just have to do is click on this Format Painter, make sure I've got my Format Painter clicked on, and then make sure I've got my brush. I'll just go back to this one again. Because you have to be careful the one you're using. As always, good to use one that is somewhat neutral if you don't want to change the color patterns or any other things that are going on within your report. And then by just doing that, we can see that these two are not aligned. So now I can just bring this down a bit more, and you can see that red just lets you know that your reports are snapping and they're like on the same line. So yeah, so just use that to make our reports somewhat looking equal in our visual looks a bit presentable.
Consistent, I think, is the word, Bemi, we're looking for.
Yes, thank you.
That's all right.
So yeah, so what everything just looks consistent, as Martin just rightly gave us the right word for that. So okay, so I've got all of that in place, and we've achieved like 19% of what they wanted from us. So, but another thing they also wanted on this particular report was their logo. So they want their logo on this report. So we go to insert, and then we can insert an image. And then if I just go to that's the logo that I have right there, and I'll just bring this right up to that corner. You can put this wherever you want. That's just where I've chosen to put mine. So all of this, there's not like one size fits all. That's just where I want to put it, and that's just where it's going to be. So this report is, as I said, is interactive. When you click on that, every other thing in the report is going to dynamically change. Another thing that they wanted to be able to do is be able to filter across different years. And for them to be able to achieve this, you can actually have a slicer in your reports. I try to put as little slicer as possible on my visuals, and that's just because sometimes I don't feel like you necessarily need a slicer to achieve that. So I'm going to show you using a slicer and using a filter, and you can see it's exactly the same thing. So if I click on 2018, there are some situations you definitely need a slicer, a slicer than using a filter. But in my own situation, what I'm trying to achieve, I can achieve the same thing. So if I put the year in the filter on this page, not on a visual, I'm trying to filter everything on this page, and then I'll make it basic. And then and the same thing, I can achieve the same thing using this slicer. So it's just basically you making the best decision. If you want more space on your report canvas, so you can start making sure, do you really need a slicer on there, or is this something that you can easily achieve using a filter? Okay, I'm just gonna drag that in there. Okay. Another thing that we need to do is give our report a title. So I can, use a text box. I'm going to show you the two ways that you can do this. So we can have a text box in there, and I will just name this prices paid. Okay. But the only thing about doing it this way is when I showed you what I achieved prior to this, is if I change the month, this title would not change this title will not change dynamically. And what we want is that we want our title to change dynamically. And this is where you can start, adding DAX to your report to extend the capability of all the standard things that you have done so far. So I'm just going to I'll remove this, and then building a new DAX measure. So if you click on these three things right there, you also have the option right there if you want. It all depends on where you how you want to do it. So I'll click on new measure, and then I'm just going to give this I'll give this a name. So I'll just call it title. And then the function I want to use, so there's this function called selected value, and that's what I'm trying to use. And the value I would be selecting that will be driving my visual, what I want to change is year. So, and that's the thing, another good thing about when you're building DAX function is the IntelliSense is really good. So as you're clicking things, Power BI just starts bringing suggestions for you. So I'm just going to quickly write that in there, and I want to put prices paid in that section. Prices paid. Just click OK. So now, compared to every other columns in my prices paid table, you can see the title as like a calculator like field next to it, and that's because it is a measure. So a measure or a calculated column will look different, so you'll be able to differentiate them easily from columns that have come in as standard within your table. So now, how do I would not be using the text box to make that dynamic. I would have to use a button. So if I click on this button, I'll just click on a blank button, and I'm just going to drag this a bit to the middle just to make it slightly bigger. And there's so much stuff you can achieve with buttons, but this is all I'm just going to show you in this demo. But there's a lot more that you can achieve with buttons, but this is just to show you an highlight of things that you can do with Power BI. And you have this option of button text. Just, I'm just going to turn that on. I can choose to type in there, but that's not what I want. If I type it, the dynamic stuff will still not work. You have this function stuff next to it, and this also applies to, even though we have titles on all of this our other visuals, you can also make those titles dynamic if you choose to, and because you have these FX functions across these different reports and visual headers. So in here, I would just come here and select title, and I just click OK. I'm just going to make this size 30, just to make that slightly bigger, and change the color to black. And because we're currently looking at 2019, you can see right there, our report is already showing us 2019. If I change this to 2020, you can see right there, that's showing us 2020. So as I said, when you add DAX functionality to your report, you can take your report a step further, like improve the capability of what you're doing as standard. And I'm just going to remove the outline of this. So another thing that you can do with your report in Power BI is you can actually change the theme. So some organizations have their theme. You can build your own themes and bring it in if you choose to. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to customize my current theme, and I'm just going to go ahead and just change these colors. So I want to make that very, very deep orange, make this somewhat black, and I want to change that to that color. So you can just, it's all depending on whatever theme that you have. You don't have to change your current theme like this. You can actually build your theme and bring it into import it into Power BI. But it's just to show you that if you choose to do that inside Power BI, you also have that option. And you also have different options of what you can customize on the other side, on the left side as well. But all I'll be doing is just the themes, and I'll click on apply.
I mean, while we're talking about colour, just a yellow card on time. We're at 10:42, so
okay.
The cloud service to show. Okay.
All right. No, but yeah, after this, they're going to cloud. Yes.
Great stuff.
Okay. So so that's about everything we're going to do on the Power BI service, and we've changed the theme color has changed based on what I've done right there. And so now that we're done, we're going to share our reports with other users. I'm going to ask remember to save my report. And for you to share your report to the Power BI service, make sure you are logged in. If you're not logged in, it's going to ask you to log in. So I'm just going to click publish. Let's go to click publish. Just waiting for the publish window to open up. Okay, so you have my workspace, and I have different workspaces in there as well. I'm not going to go through workspaces in this session, but you can create your own workspaces within your organization. When you're building reports, it's always best to publish to workspaces and to workspaces that are not your workspace. Don't put reports that you need to share within your organization in your workspace. Have reports in workspaces, not your personal workspace. And I'm just going to click on select. And then this is going to publish this report to Power BI service for me. Just one click of a button and my report is going to go into the cloud. And then if I just come here to Power BI, and in here, if I just go to the workspace, so here I've got my dashboards, and this is where you can build your dashboards. So some people call the visuals that we've been building so far as dashboards. They're not dashboards, those are just like visuals. And dashboards are a collection of different visuals from different, so I can have like 10 reports in this particular workspaces. So the dashboard is just a collection of all of those visuals into that particular dashboard. So for your dashboard, your visuals they don't have to come from the exact same reports that you've published. And to publish your pin your things to the dashboard, you have this pin option there, and you click on pin. I'm just going to call this PH dash, and then just pin that. I'm just going to pin just one more. Just going to pin that one, and then pin to dash. So you can pin as many as you like to the dashboard if you choose to, and that's fine. That is our, you can start building your dashboard. You can arrange this if you choose to. And there's one good thing about using card is you can actually have alerts on card. You can add rules to this, and if this particular value reach a particular target, you're gonna get you will get an email. So it's good to probably incorporate cards within your data, so that you can get notice when certain targets are met. I'm not going to save that. So another thing that you probably want to know about is when you publish your report to Power BI service is about scheduling the refresh. This is where you refresh your data, and because right now I'm using sorry, this is not I'm not in the right workspace. So schedule refresh. So you have I have my data source here, and I've already created a gateway prior to this. So this is something we're covering in our detail. We have a 2-day training course, and we'll cover that as well. I'm not going to go through how I set that up, but I already set that up. I'm going to apply this, and I've applied that, and that's mapped to that gateway. So there's now a connection between my on-premise data and the cloud. And here I'm going to just turn it on, and I'll just add the times that I want to refresh my data. And that is pretty much a summary of what you can actually achieve in Power BI. From creating your dashboard, extracting, transforming, modeling your data, and building visualization, publishing your report to Power BI service. You can choose to share this dashboard with somebody if you want to, and because we're using a particular app, you can create an app. I'm not going to go into that much detail. You can create an app, and this is how you would share your reports with users within your organization. So this just gives you like an introduction into what is possible in Power BI. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. And that's me, Martin.
Yep, thank you, Bemi. We haven't got anything in the Q&A right now, but now's a chance for people to pop something in, and we will address it in a couple of minutes. So, Bemi, just on that refresh piece that you did it towards the end there, what are the limitations on how often you can have data refreshing from on-premise into the cloud, for example?
So, as I said from the beginning, it depends on how you're connecting to. If your SQL, for instance, is on premise, but then you're connecting to it using direct query, you can actually get like refreshes like 10-15 minutes more frequently. But if you're importing your data, you can only get 8 refreshes in a day. So 8 hours, you can only refresh it 8 times a day.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay. So just to note, in the Q&A, I have put a link through to the Columbus website where people can go look at what we offer around Power Platform, as Power BI is very much part of that Power Platform toolset from Microsoft. Increasingly, we are working with customers to enable their own operational teams to be, as we've said this morning, self-sufficient in not only creating reports and dashboards, but also looking after data and flowing it into the cloud from on-premise solutions, but also into applications. So you can write Power Apps as well and flow data between systems using Power Automate. So this is much part of a broader platform, which is based around a cloud-based data hub called the Common Data Service. So if you'd like to understand a little bit more about some of that, maybe you're thinking of you need to extend some functionality to quickly solve a business problem that might have come up during this year, during the challenging year that we've all faced, then Power Platform may be a quick way of achieving that goal. And us guys at Columbus can help you enable your team to be able to do those sorts of things and capture the knowledge of the people that know processes most. But we're not talking about shadow IT here. That's important. What we're actually doing is working with IT teams to enable this functionality and features within customer teams, but very much working in concert with IT so that we have correct testing and correct data management, and also IT operations aren't ignored and are carried out correctly. So perfect. Okay, Martin, I see you've shared your deck. You're ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just wrap up with a few words from Mr. Bostock on the Microsoft platform and the data journey you can have with it. Take it away, Martin.
Are you showing my screen?
Yep. Your screen is currently in the live window.
Excellent. So. Okay, so yeah, thanks for that, Bemi. Hopefully you've all found that really useful. So really this is just kind of a wrapping up sort of point now, really, and just to talk about your data journey and where you go beyond there. So we like to try and talk to people about analytics and BI and the fact that it is a journey. It is not there's very rarely a start and an end to it, and the key is to get started with it and try and make that journey from wherever you are today on this sort of, we've got this very good representation of where most people sort of sit on their sort of journey on sort of from a BI point of view. Most people, we tend to find, start their lives down in this bottom left hand corner where they've got lots of standard reports, they're pulling out lots of data. You know, some of it might even be ad hoc where people are pulling stuff out and using Excel, but they have to spend a lot of time doing the whats and the wheres and the whys to try and understand what that data is telling them, and that then starts to become very siloed in individuals, and only those few individuals can actually understand that, and the business sort of becomes very dependent on them. One of the things that, as part of your BI journey, is you need to start thinking about how can we start to empower this and get this information out to other people, and how can we move from this very sort of standard ad hoc report basis that we're on today, and how can we sort of move forward so that we're starting to, you know, do sort of understand why something is happening, you know, what would happen if this trend particularly continues into the future. So looking at forecasting, and I think, you know, a good phrase to look at, a phrase I use a lot, is getting to the point of wanting the reporting, the BI solution, to give me actionable insights, something that it can tell me and give me an insight into what's happening in my business, so I can go away and take some actions on it. I don't want to spend all my time just going, I've got all this data, but I just can't get anything of value out of it. I want it to be actually helping me make those decisions and move forward. Okay, and that's something that we can help with, about moving through that journey. It isn't just about Power BI, it can be about more than that. Martin says there's other things that we can do as well. So, and as Columbus, we sort of work with customers across a broad spectrum of different sectors, and sort of customers at different points in that journey as well. But it is very much a journey. Reporting and analytics never really stand still. If it's not the technology that's changing, it's your business that's changing. So your requirements will continue to change. And something like Power BI gives you that flexibility to be able to change with the adapting changes of the marketplace. And as Martin mentioned, obviously recent times have been very challenging for everybody, and we all need to learn to adapt and be able to adapt quickly. Okay. So some of the services that we offer within Columbus, I'm not going to go through the whole slide, but obviously we can help you with a whole stack of these services, whether it's about data management and quality and cleansing, whether you need some help, for example, with putting together a BI strategy on where you want to go in the future and how you want to deal with that, and putting together a roadmap. How maybe, can we help to empower you to get to doing more self-service BI? You want to take this on yourselves. How can we help with maybe some training? Again, something we can do. But actually, also, if you want to go through and start saying, well, actually, I've got lots of data on social media and I want to understand that. So maybe I want to do something with machine learning, making use of the existing maybe cognitive services that are available in the cloud. To say, if you've got lots of data coming in from sort of social media. Twitter's a really good example. Pretty much Twitter these days is used as a voicing platform for people, particularly if they're very unhappy. But actually, that's all, depending on the size of organization, that amount of data that you get into that channel can become very overwhelming. But there are some very clever things that we can do within the cloud now, where we can use, for example, sentiment analysis to go through and score those tweets and score whether they're positive or negative tweets. So then you can start to then pick out and deal with them in pots of data, rather than just somebody having to sit there and read them all and trying to respond to them. Maybe you can pick out the more negative ones first and respond to those in a more timely fashion to try and turn them around into a more positive experience for your customers. Because with that sort of platform, people can cause an awful lot of damage very quickly by having their tweets sort of sent out there to a large audience. So social media is quite a sort of a hot topic for that sort of side of things. But it might be more than that. It might be predictive analysis. Maybe you've got machine data that you've got some machines on your factory floor, or you want to start collecting some of the data from that, some of the IoT data. We can help bring that in, and then bring that in with your machine maintenance data and start to do some predictive maintenance type logic within machine learning as well. So a whole broad spectrum of things that we can help you with. So where does that kind of leave us on to the next steps, really? So next steps is we offer a kind of a number of different options for if anybody wants to go any further with us. As Bemi mentioned before, she does a great 2-day Power BI training course where she goes into a lot more details. Hopefully you've all found something really useful. Believe it or not, I've learned a few things this morning, so thanks for that, Bemi. So there's lots and lots of features in the Power BI tool set, and I know there's a couple of buttons she's pressed this morning that even I wasn't aware of, so that's great. But obviously there's a lot more to explore. So that's a really good option if you want to, have that training within your team, your organization, and sort of, empower yourselves to take that next step into the analytical workspace world. If you want some help with innovation and you've got some particular problems that you're trying to struggle with, it doesn't just have to be on the sort of BI and analytics side of things, but we can help you with building making some strategical decisions. We'll do a workshop on that. We also do the option of a rapid prototyping session where we can come in for a week and help you understand your data and help you put together some initial sort of prototype reports. And particularly if it's also on machine learning or something like that, we can start to build some of the machine learning pieces into there and show you some of the possibilities of where you can go. And sort of finally, we've also got an analytics session a strategy session where we can again help you pin down what your backlog of reporting requirements are, look at your existing tool set, look at how you can make use of Power BI. Bemi did point out earlier on there's lots of data sets, lots of ways of connecting to different data sets within Power BI. Do think about that. I often talk to people about, people think, oh, I've got my SQL database for my ERP system or whatever it may be. All my data's in there. I'll tell you now that is not the case. Guarantee there are spreadsheets flying around in the business that maybe have got budgets in or forecast numbers. They are all perfectly good data sources. So people will be using them today. They might be using them manually, but they will be using them. So why not make them available in some sort of reporting platform and actually compare what your sales figures look like to your forecast, even if they're in 2 different systems. Power BI has that flexibility. And again, we can help you with that, help you to architect that solution and make sure that it's then going to deliver for the business. Okay. That's it really, folks. Really, we just want to say thank you. I'm not sure if we've got any questions or not, Martin, from anybody in the last few minutes.
No, we don't have any questions. There's a couple of minutes left though, so people can get those in if they want to now, and we can quickly address them. We've got sort of 3 minutes left. Many thanks for everybody who's joined the call this morning. There's been 22 of you altogether, and you've stayed with us all the way through the session. So big thanks to you for taking the time out to spend some time with us today. Following on from today, we will follow up with a series of emails from Bemi. Actually, she's going to be sharing some tips and tricks following on from what you've learned today around Power BI. She's going to also share with some of the new features that have come along in the latest spring update as well. So we'd like to stay in touch with you if that's okay. So we'll also do that from a Power Platform point of view. As I said, you know, do check out the Columbus website and the link in the Q&A there for signing up to the podcast. That's a really valuable couple of episodes that we've recorded so far, getting you access to some of the key brains within Columbus, some of the guys with lots of war stories around extending functionality on ERP and other types of solutions using the Power Platform these days. So we don't just cover Power BI, we cover the whole range of the Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, and some of the sort of automation bots as well. So lots of good content available there. And we will also continue to do these sessions. So we'd love your feedback. You will get the chance to give us your feedback in a follow-up email. So do tell us how you think the session went, what you'd like to see maybe in a future session that we can do in another Power Hour. The next one of these that we're going to schedule will be in September. And it won't be a Power BI session. We are going to jump onto one of the other areas of the Power Platform, and we will probably start with, I think, probably building a quick Canvas app in the Power Platform. So if that's something that interests you, then look out for emails and content on the website around signing up for that. Okay, so we've got no questions in. So thank you very much once again. Thank you, Bemi. Thank you, Martin. And we will just sign off now and say thank you to everybody for attending this morning.